Starting the recording now. We're on 111B.8. Thursday, when you come in, we're going to take the manicuring test from the one that we finished last week. So just remember that we have our manicuring test to take.
Can I go, Miss Connie? Or no?
14 days, Ruben?
Yeah. Has it been 14 days?
It's supposed to be 14 days.
Yeah, it's been 14 days.
Okay, as long as it's 14 days and you're all cleared, then yes. If you're not all good, then no.
Wait, do I need to take another test that's negative or no? I just have to wait 14 days.
Let's wait 14 days because
Okay, then.
This will be over. But if you're not good, then don't come.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'll see y'all on Thursday.
You better be good, mother effer.
Hey, recording, Mr. Watch Your Mouth. Okay, so relaxing, right? The process of taking curly hair and making it straight. So, anyone ever had a relaxer? No? Ruben, you have? How did it work out for you?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, you did, really? How did that work out for you? So I've actually relaxed guys' hair before, not to make it like straight, but just to loosen up the natural curl to where it was more just like waves instead of curls. And the way that that was done was more of a curl diffusion because I just took the product and it was a ammonium thioglycolate based product, put it in the hair, took a very wide tooth comb and just combed through it and kind of manipulated the hair around to where I got the waves where I wanted it, let it process, and then rinsed it out. That was it was popular for a little while. So it just helped loosen the existing texture into a more gentler curl or a wave. Okay, not just like perfectly straightening it. So sometimes it can be known as like a texturizer. Sometimes if you're just like reforming the hair, making it straight and then making it curly with not such a tight curl is known as a curl reformation. So they're just basic relaxer services, which is something that you might want to learn because I think it would help. Okay. It's not recommended to straighten someone's hair more than 85% of the natural curl texture. If that happens, you've probably overprocessed that hair. Okay, so that's just one of the things that is recommended. Now remember, there's always that one person that can do anything to their hair and it's fine. But the majority of people cannot be doing that much work or that much chemical to their hair and have it stay feeling like hair on their head. So it's all about getting it conditioned and in optimum shape before and during and after a chemical process. Okay, so relaxing, as far as chemicals go in hair, it's been around since about the early 20th century. The first chemical relaxer is really unstable, producing unpredictable results, usually so strong it caused hair loss and even scalp burns. They were done in kitchens. Okay, it was made of wood ashes, lye, white potatoes, and lard mixed together. This produced a very harsh mixture, strong enough to straighten tightly curled hair. Okay, later on, they used lye and an active ingredient that had a pH of 14. Lye is also what's in like Drano. So if you look at Drano, the main ingredient is a lye based. So lye has the ability to eat away or erode the cuticle layer of the hair, making it very limp and very straight. Okay. Later on, they added some egg whites to it, called it conch. And there you have the relaxer being born in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Okay, in the early 1900s, there was a method called pressing, which was, let's say right here, Sarah Breedlove. She was better known as Madam C.J. Walker. She applied petroleum jelly to clean dried hair, used a metal heated comb over a small gas burner and pressed it against the hair, pulling it through. We might know this as a pressing comb today. Anyone ever seen, it's on Netflix, it's called Self-Made? Anyone ever seen that? Yes, no, maybe no. It's about Madam C.J. Walker and how she got into the relaxer invention and how she marketed it out there. You guys might want to watch that. If you watch Self-Made and write a paragraph about it, about the likes and dislikes and what you learned in it, we'll give you some extra credit. So you got to turn that in though. It's pretty good. I actually liked it. I watched it. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I did. Okay. So this Garrett Morgan invented the first straightener product for human hair. Okay. This Garrett Morgan guy, he also was an inventor who impacted society with his smoke hood. This was a safety hood smoke protection device that saved many lives, and also with his 3-position automatic traffic light. So he's the guy who invented the traffic signal, the traffic light. So when we talk about these basic relaxer services, we have curl diffusion, virgin relaxer, retouch relaxer, and a partial relaxer, or a zonal relaxer as they might be known. But these are your basic relaxer services. Curl diffusion is also known as a texturizer or a chemical blowout, and there's probably a few other names out there for it. What this does is it loosens or relaxes tightly curled hair by approximately 50%. So you put the product in, usually it's an ammonium thioglycolate-based product. That way you can manipulate it and comb it through to loosen that texturizing curl at about 50%. A virgin relaxer service is for someone who's never had a relaxer. This relaxes natural, untreated, or virgin hair up to 85%. Now you may not get 85% on everyone just due to the fact that maybe their hair can't take it or maybe their scalp can't take it. So, you know, but 85 is the most that you're supposed to get. Otherwise it becomes overprocessed. Retouch, new growth only, right? We want it to match the previous relaxed hair. Partial relaxer, zonal relaxer, just in certain areas. So it says it's usually the nape area, the sides, or a hairline. So just like in perming, we have physical phases and we have chemical phases of relaxing. Right, the relaxer service begins with the chemical phase, which involves sectioning the hair and applying the relaxer product. The physical phase is what you actually do, which is your combing or your smoothing, your testing, your rinsing, and your blotting, because you're actually doing it. A lot of times the questions that ask about the physical phase used to be like, which of the following is not part of the physical phase? And, you know, they'll put sectioning the hair because you would think that sectioning the hair would be something physical because you're actually doing it, but it's getting in place of applying the relaxer. So they do play a little play of words in there. That's why it's always so important to really read your test questions. Read them thoroughly. All right, because how many times have you guys taken a test and then you read the question afterwards and you're just like, oh, I knew that. I just didn't read the question right. So yeah, real important. So we're going to section the hair. Now, we all know about sectioning the hair into 4 sections, but you can actually section it into more because if the hair's short, you won't be able to get 4 sections. So if you need 5, if you need 6, if you need 8, that's fine. You can go ahead and section the hair as much as you need. And then we're going to apply the relaxer product. Now, a lot of times, depending on which chemical you use for a relaxer, you will have to apply a base cream or a protective cream or a barrier cream. I know that that all kind of sounds like the same thing, and it really pretty much is. But the protective cream and the base cream are usually made out of a petroleum-based product. So it's like a Vaseline. Okay, that will go in between each parting, depending on the type of relaxer that you use, around the hairline and over the ears. But as we get further into it, you'll get more about the base. Okay, so we're going to apply the relaxer with the applicator brush. Depending on the client's hair type, it's going to be the type of relaxer that we use and what their desired results are. And also how long we, I was not going to say section, how long we time it for. So the client's hair, the type of relaxer, and the timing is what, you know, makes the relaxer work or not work, or get the best results for the type of hair that you're working on. A lot of times you see people apply with their fingers, but that's not really a professional application. Okay. Physical phase, we're going to comb through this hair. We're going to time it. We're going to test it. We're going to rinse it and blot it, and we're going to neutralize it. Most relaxer products can burn the scalp. That's why basing is important. And rinsing is super important too, because anytime that you leave this chemical on the scalp, you run the risk of burning. So it's really important that you rinse thoroughly, but always follow the manufacturer's directions. Combing or smoothing. We always say to smooth with the back of the comb because of the type of product that you're using. And then of course, board wants to see you do your smoothing technique there with the back of the comb. So in real life though, depending on the product now, you can use a very wide tooth comb, but it really just depends. It depends on the product that you're using. If you're using a sodium-based product, don't put a comb through it. If you're using an ammonia-based product, you can actually comb through it. Well, if the hair is in condition to let you comb through it too. Some hair will not. Time it and test it. Okay, follow manufacturer's directions. They might tell you to do like a test curl or test strand after like 3 to 5 minutes. You know, test it, check it out, see how it's developing. And don't just test it in one area, test multiple areas on the head. Okay, the relaxation test is also known as a comb test. This is to let you know if the hair needs additional processing time or if it's, you know, completed with its processing. And usually what you just do is take a piece of the hair and the tail comb like they're showing you and just run the tail comb across it and make like an indentation and see how long it takes for that indentation to pop back out. If it's, you know, if it doesn't pop back, if it pops back out right away, it needs additional time. If it doesn't pop back out at all, you need to get that off the hair now. If you go to, if it starts to pop back out after a couple seconds, it's probably done. But that takes a few times while you're doing this test to react it. So this is what we need. Our antified bonds, it's in more in a fragile state. When we're rinsing it, we don't want to vigorously move the hair around. We want to just use the force of her directing that water flow away from the client's face in there and starting to manipulate the hair around, because remember, those bonds are broken. So we need to be a little bit careful with them. The water will help neutralize it, but you really want to make sure that you are rinsing and rinsing and rinsing and then rinse some more. Make sure that scalp is completely rinsed off, because there's so many people that have bad reactions to some of those chemicals if they are left setting on the scalp. So make sure that you rinse that really, really well to stop that action. And then you're going to want to neutralize after you rinse and blot the hair. So get all that excess water out of the hair. Then we're going to neutralize. If it is a sodium-based product, you're going to use a neutralizing shampoo. follow the directions on that shampoo. If it's a neutralizing, or if it's ammonium thioglycolate, boy, it's like Monday for me, huh? Ammonium thioglycolate based relaxer, then you're going to use a neutralizing solution. And those are the two main products for relaxers, the sodium hydroxide and ammonium thioglycolate. And they're just a little bit different in the way that they're performed. So we're going to be looking at that when we get into the next part of it in an upcoming lesson. Okay, so true or false? Relaxing refers to loosening or reducing the hair's existing curly or tightly curled texture.
True.
True. True or false? Clients often request a relaxer service to tighten the existing texture of the hair.
False.
In the early 1900s, a temporary method of hair relaxing the hair was called temporary. Now this is temporary, it's not permanent. Remember, it's that hot comb. Remember what that's called? Pressing.
Pressing.
Pressing, yes. There are 4 basic relaxer services: curl diffusion, virgin relaxer, relaxer retouch, and partial, yeah, or zonal. Could be zonal too. Okay, a virgin relaxer service is a technique used on natural, untreated, or virgin hair to straighten the hair up to, and they're looking for the percentage there. What's the percentage that we want to straighten the hair? Maximum percentage there would be 85%. Okay, the chemical phase of relaxer services involves sectioning the hair and applying the relaxer, right? The relaxer product, or the chemical part, no, the relaxer product. The physical phase begins with smoothing or combing. The last step of the physical phase of the relaxer service is neutralizing. Using a neutralizing shampoo for relaxers that are formulated with sodium hydroxide, and a neutralizing solution for relaxers that are formulated with ammonium thioglycolate. Oh, look at that. We got it all right. And that's all right too. Gosh, we're smart. Okay, so let's go back to this next one. So the neutralizing shampoo or the neutralizer, what it does, it rehardens those bonds that have been broken down by the chemicals to form the new hair shape. So again, it's important that we take caution with that hair because those bonds are broken and we're rehardening them. So we want to make sure that they all get hardened back exactly the way that they're supposed to. So that's one of the reasons why it is really important to be careful with the hair while we're working with it, and don't do any type of vigorous manipulations. So now we're going to move into the actual relaxer products themselves. Okay, so when someone asks you what a relaxer does, like what's a relaxer? Well, a relaxer is a way to take wavy or curly hair and either reduce the curl or straighten it up to 85% or somewhere in between there. I mean, you could straighten it 50%, you could straighten it 72%, you know, something of that portion there. It consists of the chemical that it breaks down the natural curl pattern and a neutralizer, which rehardens it to form the shape that we've just relaxed. So we're definitely going to have to know which type of product to use. And during these basic relaxer services, there's 2 types of products, right? And there's differences in these products. Did you all see it switch, right? Can you see my screen moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good morning, Junior.
Buenos días.
Hola. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the products here. So 2 main categories. Now there's other categories in between there, that are more of not a basic relaxer product, but there are other types of products out there that do relax, but these are the two major categories of the basic relaxer services. And you have a sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is also known as lye. Now, lye comes in different strengths and like different qualities, because sometimes in like food preservation, they use lye. They use lye in soaps. They use lye in hair removers. So the sodium hydroxide, they use it to etch concrete. So, sodium hydroxide can eat through an aluminum can. Another thing to watch, that if you haven't seen it with Chris Rock, it's called Good Hair. That's a really good one to watch too, that talks about, hair extensions and relaxers, and just the quest that people go on to get their hair, good hair. I mean, it's called Good Hair. So what someone thinks good hair is, and just the quest that people go on. It's really, really good. Plus Chris Rock makes it kind of funny. Okay, so sodium hydroxide, AKA lye. It is the stronger of the two chemicals. It has more relaxing power than the ammonium thioglycolate. It's more caustic and harsher to the scalp and hair and skin. And it's used on curly, tightly curled, and resistant hair. Okay, then we have ammonium thioglycolate. It's used on wavy, curly, and non-resistant hair. Now, if someone has color on their hair, I would do a test strand before I even attempt to do an ammonium thioglycolate on them. I wouldn't even attempt a sodium hydroxide if someone has color on their hair.
Why, it wouldn't process correctly or what?
It could melt the hell completely off, just damage it, because of the fact that it's chemicals. Sometimes these chemicals, when you mix them together, they don't mix together correctly. They have a bad chemical reaction when you mix them together. So I would be real careful. And even if someone is swimming, like someone swims, they have like a lot of chlorine in their hair, I would be real careful too. I would definitely.
Doesn't it die out
Does what die out?
when you go into the pool? What color?
Does it like lighten it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, just depending on the color. But yeah, because it's a chlorine bleach. So, it's definitely a chemical. So I would watch out for that too. Okay. So sodium sodium hydroxide. Okay. Before 1960, a base cream was required to protect the scalp. We sort of talked about that a little bit ago, but sodium hydroxide, it's a chemical, right? It burns, it burns the skin. That's why you got to wear gloves too. So the petroleum base was there to protect the scalp. So after you get it sectioned out, you go through and take your 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch sections, just like the size of the section that you would apply the product to, but right along the scalp, you put the base cream on. What you're doing with this base cream is you're putting that barrier between the scalp and the product so that it doesn't, damage or burn the scalp as much. Now, sometimes it still does, depending on, if someone's recently washed their hair. They do make no base relaxers. They're more gentler to the hair and scalp, but if someone is sensitive to products, they probably still need to have a base cream, even with a gentler product. It's usually in a cream base. So it's got a 2 to 3% sodium hydroxide in a heavy cream base. Very strong on the pH scale, right? 11.5 to 14. Remember, Drano's 14 and Drano's just straight lye. So Drano's like 100% lye, where sodium hydroxides are a 2 to 3%. So it's still, it eats through the hair in your drains. So if left on the hair too long, it could eat through your hair. So it's really important to be careful and know what type of chemical that this client's hair can take. If you're not sure, do a test strand. It's designed to straighten tightly curled hair. It's also known as a sodium relaxer or a lye relaxer. These come in different strengths. So you have like a resistant relaxer, you'll have like a normal, and then you'll have like a not really, what's not the word fine, what's the word? Delicate or mild. There you go, mild, a mild solution. So you have like a mild, a regular, and a super. So, know the hair, know the type of relaxer formulation that will work with the type of hair that the client has. And that's why, again, knowing the hair, is a big thing too. Then you have these no-base relaxers that have the oil or the conditioning agents built in it to help protect the hair and the scalp from irritation. But again, you have to have a good application, you have to have speed, and you have to have product knowledge. And still, base cream for someone who has very, very sensitive hair. Okay. Now they have these things called no-lye relaxers, which have hydroxy still in them, but they're not sodium. So you'll have like a calcium, you'll have a potassium. This grenadine, you'll see that, I see that a lot in ingredients, the grenadine hydroxide, the lithium, and the ammonium bisulfate. These are recommended for hair that's not very resistant and for someone who has sensitive scalp, but they can be a little bit more drying to the hair because they're just a different type of chemical, right? So it is really important, again, that we know our product knowledge. That's a big thing out there, product knowledge. So a chemical reaction in the hair, if you get a chemical reaction on the scalp or you get a chemical reaction in the hair, it is definitely irreversible. Like once it's damaged, it's damaged. You can't like undo it. So that's why you have to be really careful with the product and know what you're doing. Okay. This Lath Ionization is what it's called when these disulfide bonds are broken down. Right. So what this diagram here is showing us that our hair is made out of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Yeah, that's what our hair is made out of, right? Hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, CHONS is how you remember it. So you got carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. That's what our hair is made out of. So these sulfur bonds right here, this is where it's broken, point X. At point X, the disulfide bonds are sulfur bonds. And that's what makes our hair straight or curly. And that's where they're broken. This is supposed to be your hair here. So that's where they get broken, at point X. Between the first sulfur atom and the adjacent carbon atom. Okay, so the result is one sulfur atom is being lost. It's called the Lath Ionization bond. So this is why it's irreversible. They're breaking that bond and removing that atom. So it's what's making your hair go straight. Okay, so that's what it's called, this Lath Ionization. And I know that that's a question that was asked on this week's assignments as what is this? So here it is. That's it for you. Okay, so that is irreversible. Second type of product out there is your ammonium thioglycolate, also known as a thio. So if you remember from your perming portion of it, ammonium thioglycolate is also an active ingredient in your alkaline waves. So pretty much it's the same ingredient, but it is in a cream base for relaxers instead of a liquid base for perming. Okay, this is formulated with 4 to 6% thioglycolic acid or its derivatives and 1% ammonium hydroxide. The cream base is usually added, so it is creamier because it's got to be applied to the hair. What happens with this type of product is that it breaks between the two sulfur atoms in the cysteine amino acid. So you split the cysteine acid and then it gets rejoined when it's neutralized. So that bond breaks and then you reharden it. With the other type of relaxer, that bond just gets broken and removed. So this affects the hydrogen and the disulfide bonds during processing time. So the hydrogen bonds are what can be broken with water on a daily basis when we style our hair. This is what, we can curl it, and then when you wash it, it goes straight and it's not curly anymore because it's the hydrogen bonds that affect that. So this can break down the hydrogen bonds and the disulfide bonds during your processing. So the disulfide bonds break in two between the two sulfur atoms and the cysteine amino acid. And then you rejoin them when you neutralize. So again, this is why when that hair is broken down into that state, it's important not to move it around because you want those two bonds to join back strongly and correctly. You don't want them to join back uneven or crooked. right? So when you're using the ammonium thioglycolic acid relaxer, or if you're using the sodium hydroxide relaxer, you cannot mix those two relaxers together. So if someone doesn't know what type of relaxer was used on their hair, ask them if it smelled. Because if it smelled like the perm solution, and you all know what perm solution smells like, if it smelled like the perm solution, that client's going to remember because it stinks. And so then you'll know that, you know, not to use the sodium, because if once those two have mixed, if you overlap a little bit onto those spots, it can cause the hair to break. If someone has decolorized or bleached hair, I would say don't even like attempt this on their hair. Don't go over it again with someone who has multiple applications. And, you know, always just do a test run, because you'll know. I mean, you'll know if that's the case. So remember, these strengths come in mild, super, regular. So we're looking at the ammonium thioglycolate or glycolate relaxer strength, or relaxers, as being like an 8.5 to a 9.5, which is pretty much like what a perm solution would be. But when we get up to the sodium, we're looking at 11.5 to a 14. So if that's the case, you know, someone who has super resistant hair would go with the sodium. You know, if you're just trying to remove some wave out of it, you might want to just go with the ammonium, just because it's going to be better for the hair. So here's what they're categorized as. Mild is for delicate hair. Be healthy, color treated hair, fine textured or porous hair. Normal would be for curly to medium texture, and then resistant would be for tightly curled or super coarse hair. So these sodium no and thio-relaxers, the three main ingredients in them are your alkaline agent, oil, and water. Okay. So just depending on what the agent is, right? Where we got sodium, calcium or potassium hydroxide, guanidine hydroxide, ammonium thioglycolate, ammonium bisulfates, whatever it is, that's your alkaline agent, oil, and water. Okay, again, do not apply sodium hydroxide to extremely porous hair that has been permanently colored or highlighted, or hair that has been permed or relaxed with ammonium thioglycolate. Okay, it can result in severe breakage. And I'm sure, because I've seen them and I know they're on there, if you go on YouTube and you look at some of these like relaxers gone wrong, you're going to see some scary stuff out there. But at the same time, if you do them correctly, they're going to be someone's best friend. So it's all about knowing your product, knowing how it works, knowing the client's hair and how it works on the client's hair to get the best results. So prior to neutralizing, we want to rinse and block that hair. Remember, we want to rinse that hair using the force of the water as much as we can first, and make sure that that water temperature is comfortable for the client. Okay, the neutralizer is going to reharden or lock that hair into a new straight hair or shape. So when it comes to neutralizing, if we're using a sodium hydroxide product, we're going to be using a neutralizing shampoo. If we're using an ammonium thioglycolate solution, we are going to be using a neutralizing solution. Okay, neutralizer can have a pH between a 2.5 to a 7.0, so it's a little bit more on the acidic side to neutralize out, of course, the alkaline, and we want to make sure that we reduce that swelling that's caused by that chemical, right? As it swells the hair, it's opening that cuticle layer. As the cuticle layer opens, that hair swells or expands so that that product, the relaxer product, can go into the cortex layer and break down these bonds. When we neutralize it, what it's doing is it's reducing the swelling by closing down the cuticle and just sort of hardening those bonds back. So we have the 2.5 to the 7.0. So again, if you're using a neutralizing shampoo, you want to follow those manufacturer's directions. Sometimes they'll ask you to shampoo 3 times. Sometimes they'll ask you to leave it on for 5 minutes for the first shampoo and, you know, then shampoo it again. It just really depends on what the manufacturer's recommendations are. So read those instructions. Know them well. So if we're using a sodium hydroxide relaxer, you do not shampoo that hair first. You will have a faster processing time. It's usually about 20 minutes for the whole processing time. So that means that your application has to be fast. Okay, very strict time constraints. And it's a lot better for resistant hair. If you're using a sodium hydroxide, some of the less scalp irritation or some of the slower processing times are the calcium or potassium hydroxide, the guanidine hydroxide, or guanidine hydroxide, lithium hydroxide, ammonium bisulfate. These will process a little bit slower and less irritating to the scalp. And I know that some of them that say that they're a no-base relaxer, they're like the relaxer, they have an activator that you mix into it. And a lot of times once that is mixed, it has to be used right away. It cannot, you can't use half of it and then save the half of it for later because it just won't work. Where if you're using the resistant sodium hydroxide, it comes in a tub and it's always working. Like you can just keep using it till it's gone. So if your hair is not so resistant, instead of using sodium hydroxide, all of these other ones, the calcium or potassium hydroxide, guanidine hydroxide, lithium hydroxide, ammonium bisulfate, ammonium thioglycolate, these are the ones that can be better for the less resistant hair. So tightly curled hair, not recommended. Same thing that's recommended for less resistant hair, right? Guanidine hydroxide, lithium hydroxide, ammonium bisulfate, ammonium thioglycolate. So the ammonium bisulfate, sometimes you may have to use heat. So a hair dryer or place them underneath a heating lamp, okay? Requires frequent conditioning treatments. They all pretty much require conditioning treatments because it is a chemical, but the calcium and potassium hydroxide are going to make your hair a little bit more drier. So if you're getting ready to do a relaxer, you're going to need a shampoo, a base cream, protective cream, a relaxer product, a neutralizer or a neutralizing shampoo, or a protein moisturizing conditioner or sealer. And you have to have a SDS, a safety data sheet, for every chemical in your shop. So what you got right here with this is shampoo. Okay, so do you shampoo? When do you shampoo? If you use a neutralizing shampoo, do you shampoo before you use the relaxer, or what do you do with this? So depending on the relaxer that you're using, right? If you have a sodium relaxer, you shampoo in the end with the neutralizing shampoo. If you're using a thioglycolate relaxer, you're going to shampoo in the beginning and use a neutralizing solution. And those are two of the major differences that goes along with these products. So if you're going to actually do a client, you'll have to have all of these things on hand because you will not know what product you're going to use until you do your consultation with your client. So the shampoo, if you're using ammonium thioglycolate, you're going to shampoo in the beginning. The base cream, protective cream, barrier cream, all means the same thing. It is a petroleum-based product like Vaseline. It's going to protect the hairline, the ears, the scalp, any parts of the hair. If you're just doing a zonal and you don't want it to get on the other parts of the hair, put your base cream on it. It's going to protect that from the rest of the hair. Your chemical relaxer product, that's what's going to make your hair straight. The neutralizer, so it's going to fix or restore those bonds. It's also known as a fixative. Let's see, a fixative, the restore, neutralizer. There you go. All means the same thing too. Okay, this contains an oxidizing agent, which means what? They're getting their oxygen back. Used with the thioglycolic-based relaxers, neutralizing product. A neutralizing shampoo, like we said, fixes and restores the bonds. This is used with the sodium product. Okay, this also contains an oxidizing agent and it's used with sodium hydroxide relaxers. Then you'll have your protein moisturizer, conditioner, sealer, restores protein, restores moisture. But remember, every product that you use is going to have a family of hair products to go with it. So the directions on that particular manufacturer will tell you which type of after product to use because they all have them. Okay. So you'll need your tools and supplies and equipment. Right? You need your bowl, your brush, no metal bowl, no metal tail brush, no metal tail comb. Remember, the metal can weaken the product. So we don't want that to happen. Okay, so shampoo cape, because we want to make sure that we keep the client's clothing protected, and we do want to double drape, always double drape with this. So here you go, you got your protective cape, protect the clients, your towels, okay, your sectioning clips, want to make sure those are plastic also, no metal. Sometimes too, when you put these solutions and it touches metal, it turns everything purple. So we don't want to stain anyone with any purple on there. Your smock or apron, you want to wear that to protect yourself. You need a spatula to remove the product from the container, right? Because we don't want to contaminate it. You'll definitely want to wear gloves. And you'll need to use your record card and a plastic cap sometimes, depending on what you're using, but you still need to have those on hand because a lot of times during your conditioning treatments, you'll need to place a plastic cap over the head to keep the heat and the moisture in. Okay, we want to make sure we have the heat equipment, an infrared lamp or a hood dryer, just depending on what you're working with, a timer, and your chair, of course. Okay, true or false? A selection of products, tools, supplies, and equipment are necessary to perform professional relaxer services.
True.
Oh yeah. Sodium hydroxide is the stronger of the two relaxer products. That one's true also. Ammonium thioglycolate is used on hair that is wavy, curly, or ammonium thioglycolate. It's wavy or curly. You're not going to put it on. That was tricky. Do not apply sodium hydroxide to hair that is extremely, that word they're looking for, I believe, is porous.
I was about to say.
You were a good job. Sodium hydroxide relaxers have a pH of, that one's 11 to 14. Ammonium thioglycolate relaxers have a pH of, that's like an 8 to 9, 8 to 10. Reduce
You're breaking up, Connie.
swelling caused by, you know that one. Sodium hydroxide based relaxers, neutralize sodium hydroxide based relaxers with the neutralizing shampoo. And then sodium hydroxide and the thioglycolic relaxers are not what? Not mixable. Ooh, this was sort of tricky. Employers are required to make safety data sheets for all products available for you to reference and use in the shop. Oh, non-resistant. Oh, that was a tricky one. Porous, okay. 11.5 to 14. All right, got that part. 8.5 to 9.5. Oh, I was off by the 0.5s. Oh, alkaline formulas. Okay. Shampoo, compatible, shop. Okay. Well, that one was pretty good. That was okay. So now when we look at this, okay, so when you're going to analyze the client's hair and scalp, what are you looking for?
Lice.
Any idea? You're looking for what?
Lice, lesions,
Okay, cuts, abrasions,
Lice.
lice.
anything
Okay.
cancerous.
Diseases and disorders.
Right? We are looking for all of that. All of that. Yes, that's one thing that we do definitely look for. So let's say that all of that is okay. We've done their scalp analysis and all that looks okay. What now, when we're actually looking at the client's hair itself, what are we checking for?
Texture, density, stuff like that.
Okay, there's one more. Texture, density. What else?
Porosity.
Yep, porosity. Definitely. We always want to look at that, right? We always want to look at the texture, the density, and the porosity. Okay, density means like how much hair that client has on their head. I mean, the technical definition is per square inch. So basically, how much scalp do you see on that client's head when you're looking at their hair? Do you see a lot of scalp or do you not see so much scalp? If you see a lot of scalp, their density is pretty fine. If you don't see any scalp, then they have really thick density. So that just kind of lets you know how much product you're going to use. Because the more density is the more product that we're going to use, right? So then that way we're going to have to charge them more because we're using more products.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay.
For the homework, it says the top questions, right? Who invented the relaxer? I got all those done, and then it says there's more questions for the next day, but it's saying Tuesday only. Are you doing all these questions in this Zoom?
I think we probably covered a lot.
Because you're going up because all these questions for the next day, I feel like you just answered most of them, but I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have for sure.
But is this going to be covered again tomorrow too?
Yeah. Tomorrow, but I'm not going to start the next chapter portion of it yet today. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions that we're going to go over tomorrow too.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go over it again. Okay. And your TV's loud, Nick. How could you hear me?
You can't.
Ah, gotcha. He's got his earbuds on. Okay. Yeah. So we always have to look at that. No matter what service we're doing, we're always looking at the client's scalp. We're always looking for, the disorders. We're always checking out the density, the texture. I mean, even if you're doing a haircut, this is what you're checking out too, right? You're checking out growth patterns. You're checking out scalp. You're looking for all those things on the scalp. You're looking at, the density, maybe not so much the porosity for a haircut, but what the porosity would affect in a haircut is if you're putting product in the hair afterwards, how much product would you use? That would affect the density, or the porosity in a haircut would be the products, how much are you going to use? So all of that stuff we have to really to know about and know how to analyze the hair. And that's, it's important to do that because even after all these years, sometimes I don't really analyze the density of someone's hair. Let's say I'm doing a color and I go and I mix it and I'm just like, I'm overmixed or undermixed because I didn't really pay attention to that portion of it. So yeah, it's important to always look at all of that before we start anything. So yep, we're going to start on these relaxer skills tomorrow about how we're going to be proficient in our relaxing skills and practice, right? You guys all been practicing perms like crazy. I think we got those pretty good. It's the relaxer now, getting that application technique on because remember on board, you're also doing a relaxer. So we got to get you through that and get those skills proficient so that, you can get that license, right? That's what we're going for, that license. Ruben, is that your dog with the soccer ball?
Yeah, it's actually volleyball. But yeah, my new dog.
Oh, look how cute he is with his little patched eyeballs. That's cute. All right, you guys. So have a great day and we will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, same channel. All right.
Hasta luego.
What'd you say, Junior?
Hasta luego.
Oh, okay. See you tomorrow.
Later, good.
Wow.